Hi everybody, it's Dee from DOUBLEBEE Crafty Creations, and today I am going to provide instructions on how to make this small Christmas tree with the mushroom knitting machine. Let's go. So we're using, I love this yarn, and it is a medium weight, size 4, and the color is teal sparkle. And then I have the same type of yarn, and this color is white, but it does have a metallic layer to it. So anyway, scissors, darning needles, loom hook for drop stitches, your good old mushroom knitting machine. And one thing to note about this machine is it does not come with a stitch counter. So I added a stitch counter because I can't keep up. My old brain just won't let that happen. And then I did add some fingernail polish to the peg before the cast on needle. Now some people don't count this as needle 1. They count this one as needle 1, but for purposes of what I'm creating, this is my needle 1. This is where I'm going to cast on. I don't have the mushroom top because it will not fit with this, and I think that was something that they did to hold the machine, but my husband put my machine on this 18-inch round tabletop, which you can get at Lowe's, which is in another video, and we'll link that in the description below. And then I just take a C-clamp, clamp it to my table so that it holds the machine and I can crank very easily. I do have an unboxing video of this machine, so if you're interested in that, you can check that out. We'll link it in the description below, and I hope to see you there. First thing we're doing is we're going to cast on. So I loop around the white peg, drop the tail, go behind the second, front of the third, behind the second, front of the third, and already it dropped off. So I'm going to go back. It's all about tension. So behind the white starting peg, I'm sorry, in front of the white, behind the next, in front of the next, behind the next, front of the next, behind the next, in front, and just keep going. Now we're back at the starting peg. So this is where I'm going to turn my stitch counter on. I'm going to reset it to 0. I'm going to place my yarn in the tensioner, and then I put it in the first to give it the most tension. You may have to play with this and adjust it after you see how your machine, because I think all of these are different. I've really had to do a lot of practice on these to see what works best with what yarn. So then we're just gonna keep turning. Seems like we've got a good tension, and these machines will creak and give a little bit of resistance, but you're okay. And then just keep going. So we're at row 1. So for this first row, we are going to do 15 rows. We're making this tree, so that's what we want it to look like when we get done. So just keep going, and I'll meet you back here. I just painted this so you can see it's getting caught on it because it's still kind of tacky. So I'm just pushing it under that hook right there. Then I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to cut off a good bit. And I'm going to put my darning needle on. And we are going to cast off. So the way you do that is release it from your tensioner. Bring this up here. You don't want to, you want to capture this one. But then you just want to do one round. And that's why you need this marker without the yarn catching the hooks. And when it gets to this needle, I stop. So 1, 2 before your cast on needle. The reason being is if you keep cranking, this is going to come off and you're going to have a missed stitch. So I'm going to just a little more so that I can grab that and bring it back a little bit. And that way I don't have a missed stitch. So then we're just going to start casting off. And since I have this C-clamp, I can just undo this, kind of make it a lazy Susan, so that I can turn this as I start casting off. And then what I do is I hold the working yarn down. It's not working yarn, but I hold what I've knitted so that it doesn't come off these two teeth, because it comes off of this very easily. So then I just hold it until I pull it off, and then I grab the next one and just do the same thing all the way around. Some people use clips, clothespins, Acco fasteners to weight it down. It's essentially what I'm doing with my fingers now, just so that the yarn doesn't come off of these two little teeth, because if it does, you're going to miss a stitch. And this is kind of forgiving if you miss one stitch, but if you miss more than a couple, you're going to have to start over, which is going to be very frustrating. I know it's hard to see this, but I'm just basically pushing down on the yarn on the next stitch and removing it. So we'll do this all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. Now if you have a row counter, it is going to magnet, so it's going to try to draw your needle into it. You just have to kind of work it. Get past that one. Now what I do when I get here is I just let this down a little bit till that needle disappears, and then I grab this one and do the same here, just right as it pops, and then here the same right as it pops. This is your last one, and voila, your first row, your first segment of the tree. All right, so I'm putting on my inner tube because I might decide to go swimming later. Anyway, this actually helps with some back issues, and it keeps your arms up. But I'm going to show you the process of this. So this was where I did the cast off on the mushroom. So I'm going to, 1, turn on some light. 2, I'm just going to pull this to tighten it up. So if any of you have made a beanie, it's the same concept. You're just tightening up. No, it's kind of hard to see because this is a dark color. Anyway, just fold it in, keep pulling, and I get to about that size, and then I go ahead and cut off the excess so that I'm not working with so much yarn. And I did the number one foul. I sat down without a pair of scissors. So pause one. Okay, so I'm gonna cut off a good bit of this. And then you want to sew in the same direction that your pull. So mine's always to the left. I'm assuming it'll be different if you're left-handed or right-handed. But just go around and secure this. I usually do at least 2 rounds until I feel it gets snug in the circle. I mean, leave yourself a circle because you need something to put your stand through. And we can talk about different stands as well. But anyway, I'm just going to go around and do this a couple of times, and then I'll show you what's next. My yarn is getting pretty snug in this circle, so I'm just going to take my needle out, and then what you want to do is stretch your work. So, oh, I see a drop stitch right there. Let me see if I can fix that. All right, this is a 5mm hook, and I'm taking a guess on this because this one is pretty far down. I'm just going to pick it up with my crochet hook, and I'm going to grab a stitch marker. Well, it's not going to forgive me, so I'm just going to see how it turns out. So I'm going to stretch my work. Where I drop this stitch, I'm just going to hold it and pull below it. The good thing about these is they cinch up, so we might be able to hide that. So few imperfections is not going to be too bad. Find it again. Stretch your work. And then now we're going to cinch up the other side. So again, kind of like a beanie. You're just drawing everything to the center. Make sure you flip it in. You want everything to be inside. That. And I get the center to about, again, the diameter of whatever you're going to use as your holder. So I'm going to take a 6mm crochet hook just for reference. And you can see the hole's about that big. Now I'm going to cut off the excess of this because I don't want to have to deal with sewing all that in there. Put it back on my needle. Again, I'm pulling from the left, so I'm going to sew clockwise. And I'm going to do this for at least 2 rounds, and I'll meet you back. So I was finishing my round here, my 2 rounds, and there's my drop stitch. It's in an unforgiving place. So what I'm going to do is a test. But I'm going to get as close as I can to that and put my needle through the center of the material, and I'm going to get as close to that stitch as I can right there. Pull this through, and I'm going to rethread this. I'm going to take my needle through the center of that loop, and you can see there's more than one, but I'm going to make this the bottom of the tree so no one's ever going to see it. So I'm going to bring this through these loops so that I can make that loop secure so it's not going to unravel. Then I'm just going to go back through some loops in the center to secure it. You can even tie it if you want to, because no one's going to see this on the bottom. And then I'm going to take it through the center and hide it. Cut this off. Yeah. Do the same thing with this one. Since I've already secured it, I'm just gonna take it under a loop, take it through the center, pull it through, cut it off, and voila! This is going to be the bottom because this is where that loop was dropped. This one, beautiful. So that's going to be our first layer. So we'll start the next one and I'll meet you back. So we just finished row 15. So the next few rows we're going to be doing 12, 10, 7, and 5. So same cast on process, same cast off process, just less rows each time around. So do that. I'll meet you back here and we will assemble the tree. When you finish your rounds, you should end up with rows that look like this. So your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Now, if your bottom row seems to be a little smaller than the next, you can pull on it to stretch your work. And then just stack them accordingly. Now, my husband made me these stands. You can use a stick, you can use a dowel. And then if you do that, you can just hot glue some stars on the top, you know, kind of use your imagination. Anyway, I'm going to start with the first one. Just feed it through the center. The next, and the bottom one. And then I'm going to screw on my base. There you go. So next we will move on to this tree. So that'll be my next video. Hope to see you there. Bye.